Whenever a doctor cannot do good, he must be kept from doing harm. Hippocrates. Doctors are expected to help, to heal, to do good. People under their care are supposed to trust them with their health, and sometimes their lives. Good doctors do everything they can to fulfill the needs of their patients. Bad doctors can cause more harm to their patients by doing as little as ignoring their patients' needs and worries, or as much as actively sabotaging the healing process. But some doctors go beyond the label of bad. They abuse their role, their power over the weak and fragile, their access to drugs, and even the lives in their hands. On January 14, 1946, truck driver Harold Shipman and his wife Vera welcomed his son to Bestwood Estate in Nottingham. They named him Harold after his father. Despite his name, Harold was much closer with his mother than his father. Unfortunately, Vera had lung cancer. Harold watched his mother deteriorate through his high school years. In the late stages of the disease, Harold would sit with Vera as she was given morphine to help with her pain. He saw how much it helped her, despite her terminal condition. This would stay with him and even inspire him in a very dark way. Vera would pass away on June 21, 1963, leaving behind her husband and teenage son. Even though he was mourning his mother, Harold graduated from high school and went on to enroll at the University of Leeds. Here, he attended the Leeds School of Medicine. One day, while waiting at a university bus stop, Harold met Primrose Oxtoby. The pair hit it off and had a relatively quick courtship. They would marry on November 5, 1966, when 17-year-old Primrose was 5 months pregnant with the first of their 4 children. Harold graduated from the University of Leeds in 1970. He took a job at Pontefract General Infirmary in the West Riding of Yorkshire. Then, in 1974, he took his first position as a general practitioner at the Abraham Ormerod Medical Center in Todmorden. Just 1 year later, Harold was caught forging prescriptions for pethidine, better known as Demerol. He was filling these prescriptions for his own use. Upon being caught, he was fined £600 and was made to attend a rehabilitation clinic in York. In 1977, he found a position as a GP at Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde, Manchester. He remained here through the 80s. In 1983, he was interviewed for a current affairs documentary called World in Action, where he spoke about how the mentally ill should be treated in the community. Having finally established himself and gained a positive reputation, Harold took the next step and opened his own surgery in 1993, located at 21 Market Street. He was now a well-respected member of the community. But being well-respected did not omit him from suspicion. In March 1998, Linda Reynolds, a GP at Brooks Surgery in Hyde, decided to let someone know about a concerning issue she had noticed. She met with South Manchester District Coroner John Pollard and discussed the high death rate among Harold Shipman's patients. It was also noticed that he had a high number of cremation forms for elderly women that he needed to have countersigned. Police launched an investigation into the matter, but were somehow unable to find enough evidence to charge Harold. They closed the investigation on April 17th. Their mistake would come clear on June 24th, when one of Harold's patients was found dead in her home mere hours after he visited her. 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy, a former mayor of Hyde, was reportedly in good health, and her death came as a shock. Harold signed off on the death certificate and insisted no autopsy would be necessary as she died of old age. Solicitor Angela Woodruff, Kathleen's daughter, was informed by fellow solicitor Brian Burgess that a will had been made, but he doubted its authenticity. The will did not include Angela and her children, instead leaving the entire estate worth £400,000 to Harold Shipman. Angela went to the police with her suspicions, and a new investigation began. Kathleen's body was exhumed, and an autopsy uncovered traces of diamorphine, better known as heroin. The drug was often used to ease the pain of terminal cancer patients, but Kathleen did not have cancer. Harold claimed she was an addict and had made notes on the subject in his computerized medical journal. The comments were proven via police investigation to have been made after Kathleen's death. During the investigation, police were visited by taxi driver John Shaw. In August, he told investigating officers he suspected Harold had killed at least 21 patients. John said he grew suspicious when he continued to bring elderly patients who were in good health to Harold's practice, but they ended up dead in his care. Harold was arrested on September 7th when police discovered he owned a Brother typewriter that matched the kind used to create the forged will. Police continued their investigation into Harold's supposed murders, looking into deaths that the doctor certified, as well as 15 specimen cases. They uncovered a pattern of drugging patients with lethal doses of diamorphine, signing off on death certificates, then falsifying medical records to cover his tracks. Like with Kathleen, he tried to claim the patients all died of old age. Police also discovered that many of the deaths occurred around the same time of day, when Harold was doing his afternoon visits. Harold's trial began on October 5, 1999, more than a year after his arrest. He was charged with the deaths of the following women: 81-year-old Marie West, 67-year-old Irene Turner, 77-year-old Lizzie Adams, 59-year-old Jean Lilly, 63-year-old Ivy Lomas, 76-year-old Muriel Grimshaw, 67-year-old Marie Quinn, 81-year-old Kathleen Wagstaff, 49-year-old Bianca Pomfret, 65-year-old Nora Nuttall, 68-year-old Pamela Hillier, 57-year-old Maureen Ward, 73-year-old Winifred Meller, 73-year-old Joan Mella, 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy. All 15 of the women were given lethal doses of diamorphine between 1995 and 1998. Harold's legal team tried to have the Kathleen Grundy case tried separately due to the motive shown by the allegedly forged will. However, all 16 of Harold's charges would go forward in a single trial. After a few short months, Harold's trial came to a close. On January 31, 2000, the jury found the doctor guilty of all 15 murder charges and 1 count of forgery. Justice Forbes sentenced him to life on all 15 counts of murder with a recommendation that he be subject to a whole life tariff, meaning he would never be considered for parole. These sentences would be served concurrently with a 4-year sentence for forging Kathleen Grundy's will. 11 days after his sentencing, the General Medical Council took Harold Shipman's name off the medical register. 2 years later, Home Secretary David Blunkett confirmed the whole life tariff. Through all of this, Harold maintained his innocence. He disputed any scientific evidence brought against him, but never made any public statements. During his incarceration, Harold refused to take part in courses that would have encouraged acknowledgement of his crimes. Due to this, he temporarily lost his privileges, which included phone calls to his wife. Primrose and their 4 children remained loyal to Harold. A few years later, the day before his 58th birthday, Harold was found dead in his cell at HM Prison Wakefield. He used his bed sheets to hang himself from the bars of his cell window. When the news broke, some of the victims' families said they felt cheated. In response, David Blunkett said, "You wake up and you receive a call telling you Shipman has topped himself and you think, is it too early to open a bottle? And then you discover that everybody's very upset that he's done it." Newspapers were divided, but everyone ran articles about Harold's death, opinions on prisoner welfare, and sentencing practices. The Sun had a front-page headline that read, "Ship, ship, hooray," while the Daily Mirror called Harold a cold coward. The motive for Harold's suicide was never officially established, but it is suspected that he told his parole officer he wanted to do it to ensure his wife had financial security. Primrose received a full NHS pension she would not have been entitled to had Harold lived past 60. When Harold's body was released to his family, police advised against burying him in case the grave was attacked or vandalized. He wasn't cremated until a year after his death and was attended only by Primrose and their children. In January 2001, senior West Yorkshire detective Chris Gregg led an investigation into 22 deaths that happened under Harold's watch while he worked in the area. The following year, the Shipman inquiry concluded that Harold killed at least 218 patients between 1975 and 1998. Judge Janet Smith said there were more deaths, but there was not enough evidence to determine if the deaths were unlawful. Most of the victims were elderly women in relatively good health. Judge Smith submitted her final report on January 24, 2005. In this report, she stated that she believed Harold killed 3 patients while he worked at Pontefract General Infirmary and held suspicions about 4 others, including a 4-year-old girl. Between 1975 and 1998, a total of 459 people died while in the care of Harold Shipman, though it is uncertain how many were murdered and how many truly were unpreventable deaths. 6 doctors who signed cremation forms for Harold were charged with misconduct, but were eventually found not guilty. 2 more doctors from Tameside General Hospital were found guilty of serious professional misconduct on October 5, 2005. They failed to report any concerns about Harold, then gave misleading evidence to the Shipman inquiry. The inquiry also found that Harold's suicide was neither predictable nor preventable, but procedures needed to be re-examined. During the 1998 investigation, police seized 10,000 pounds worth of jewelry from Harold's garage. It wasn't discovered that he had been stealing from his patients until 2005, when Primrose asked for the pieces back. Police wrote to the families of the victims to see if they could identify any of the jewelry, but only 1 piece was claimed. All unidentified items were given to the Assets Recovery Agency in May, and the investigation would conclude in August. 66 pieces were returned to Primrose, and the 33 pieces she confirmed did not belong to her were auctioned off. The proceeds went to Tameside Victim Support. The Shipman inquiry led to many changes within the NHS. This was called the Shipman effect. Dispensing practices were changed. Death certificates required different steps to be completed. Single doctor practices moved to multiple doctor general practices as a safety precaution. Changes to cremation forms in England and Wales included new questions such as, do you know or suspect that the death of the person who died was violent or natural? And, do you consider that there should be any further examination of the remains of the person who has died? In July 2005, a memorial garden was opened in honor of the victims of Harold Shipman. The Garden of Tranquility is located in Hyde Park and was part of a larger £1 million regeneration project. At the time of writing, Harold Shipman, known as Dr. Death, the Angel of Death, and the Good Doctor, is the only British doctor who has been convicted of murdering their patients. He was a prolific serial killer with an unknown motive and a confirmed 250 kills to his name. People usually go to med school driven by a desire to help people. Harold seemed to be compelled by the opposite, and his grisly statistics show he was as good as taking lives as most doctors are at preserving them. Dr. Harold Shipman had a dark secret, one he kept safely hidden for over 2 decades until his greed toppled the house of cards he hid within.